What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Coffee with Broach at night / Sports Talk with Broach. We're combining it. I'm fired up and I'm pissed off. But before we talk about what Ben Simmons did to us, and once again, he's a liar, he's a fraud, and he's mocking mental health. Before we get into all that, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate it. If you are looking to buy tickets to go to any event, if you're looking to go to the Sixers game on Thursday, which is going to be electric, if you're looking to see James Harden live at the Wells Fargo Center, you can utilize the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page for $20 off, which is a no-brainer. I'm basically paying for your parking. Promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page. And then lastly, TikTok at Broads Media. We're incorporating a lot of fun over there, so make sure you check it out and hit that follow button. But yes, there's new news about Ben Simmons and his approach to Thursday in South Philadelphia and why he feels it's necessary, or why his camp feels that he should sit there at the edge of the bench and basically allow the Sixers fans to make it living hell for him. And once again, it comes down to money, and that's really where we're at. If you remember, there were 7 billion articles and 7 billion pieces that were released throughout the last 7, 8, 9 months of this drama. Oh, trust me, we all remember. And I specifically remember reading about people close to Ben Simmons saying, I don't give a fuck about the money. It's about the mental health and getting him right. And sometimes you have to sacrifice the financial part of it to make sure that you're embracing what's important here. And that's the mind and everything surrounding just where he's at inside of his head. Well, this doesn't add up at all. Now, basically, the message that we are getting from Rich Paul, from Clutch Sports, and from Ben Simmons is, who cares about your mental health, Ben? I don't care if you get hated for the next 2.5 hours. I don't care if the fan base obliterates you and literally makes your life horrible for 2.5 hours, because we can use this when it comes to trying to settle the financial pieces to all of the fines that the Sixers hit you with. So hold on a second. What's more important here, guys? Is it the fact that he needs to be mentally right now? They're just saying, who cares about it? It doesn't even matter a lick. And you know what? Yes, I'm still bothered by it. I'm still irritated by it. And for me, it's not as simple as he's no longer playing for this uniform, so why even allow yourself to get this pissed off about it? I'll tell you why. Because he did it to himself. He's the reason why we feel the way that we do. If he didn't do this, we don't react this way. It's just that simple. It's a cause and it's an effect. You sucked. You were bad. You were pathetic. And then we talked about how bad you were at the sport of basketball. You did not shoot. This isn't just someone failing. Tobias Harris right now, he's failing, right? He's taking shots. He's missing shots. He did a decent job defensively, and I'll touch more on that as we continue the show. That's more of a secondary topic. But there's a difference between missing and making shots and then not shooting a basketball for a bunch of fourth quarters in a row in the postseason as a primary point guard and as a max contract guy. You're not even shooting the basketball. You literally look at that play against Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks, and it makes you want to throw up and vomit. It's totally different than just, I didn't make my shots. I didn't execute. I didn't play as well as I could have. And then you work and you work and you work. Joel Embiid over the years, I turned the ball over too much. I didn't play my sharpest. He'll have 7 assists in a game and go, I didn't pass the ball as well as I could have. Because when you hold yourself accountable and then you make sure you do your best that it doesn't happen again, that's all it takes to satisfy sports fans. Yet this is the complete opposite, and they're pretending as if whatever type of harsh criticism he receives on Thursday night isn't anything to do with what Ben Simmons did. Let's look at what Ben Simmons did. Ben Simmons' actions is why we are here, and you just can't lose sight of that at all. And I heard that there's some rumors going around that Rich Paul was actually in the building against Chicago. So is it possible that he tried to get some sort of before and after? I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Clutch Sports or Rich Paul actually plant people in the building and then tell them to do stupid things to make it look even worse than it really is. And unfortunately, and I really hope it doesn't happen, but I have to be honest here, there probably is going to be one or two idiots that cross the line that ruin it for everybody else. And we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. He's going to get definitely destroyed. He's going to get booed harshly, as he should. And I'm not supposed to tell everybody around town, you're not allowed to do that. He held this organization hostage for a long period of time. It didn't work because Joel Embiid rose to the occasion and Tyrese Maxey became a stud. And Doc Rivers put this team in a great position throughout the regular season before the trade to compete and put themselves in a position that players now want to come play for you. James Harden is thrilled to get out of Brooklyn and compete with Joel because he knows that we have a serious chance to actually do lethal damage. That's a part of the Doc Rivers, Sam Cassell leadership from the coaching perspective. So it backfired on Ben Simmons. He thought that they would just plummet and lose every single game and it would just be a miserable experience, but that wasn't the case. But I'm supposed to tell 20,000 people that spent a lot of hard-earned money and who are going to the Wells Fargo Center that you're not allowed to express that type of emotion and express that feeling towards a person who's not only a horrendous basketball player, but a bad person too, who's not really in a mental health situation the way that he's claiming it is. And him sitting on the bench tells you that. Look, he didn't show up in Boston. You look at the Brooklyn Nets and the week that was, and you look at the fact that they hit the road and they're going to all these different cities. Ben Simmons is no-showing for all of these cities. He's not sitting on the bench when they're going to Boston. He's not sitting on the bench when he's going to these other towns. But just all of a sudden, I want to make sure my teammates know I'm here for them. I want them to know that I'm their guy and I'm willing to be in a Nets uniform. Get the hell out of here. You're a liar. You're a liar. And if I'm the negotiator and I'm looking at this, I'm going through the arbitration, that's definitely information that I'm going to use. But it's clear they have a goal, and they always had a goal. They had an agenda, and that was to get Ben Simmons paid. And they made fun of so many important issues that society has taken so many steps in the right direction to fix and to get better. And unfortunately, he's using this for his advantage. In what universe would a Rich Paul and Clutch Sports and an agent say, we don't care too much about how you're feeling upstairs in your head. Sit on that bench, and that will get us pay money. You'd be an awful, awful person to do that. I don't think Rich Paul would do that. So then by a process of elimination, it tells me that it's not as serious as they made it. Now, I worked with Mike Gill for a bunch of years, who hosts the Sports Bash from 2 to 6 on 97.3 ESPN. And I saw him on Twitter talking about this situation. And his thought on it is, we all said for a while that Ben Simmons had a mental issue, and that's why he wasn't shooting the basketball. He finally admitted that, and now Sixers fans aren't taking it for face value, and they feel he's just lying. You can't have it both ways. And then I will fire back at that and say there's a difference between having a hiccup in a sport and mental illness. Lane Johnson taking time away from the game. Brandon Brooks and the anxiety and throwing up nonstop before games. There's mental illness, and then there's not being able to get over the hump in the game of basketball. It's not even close to the same thing. One guy is afraid of basketball. Then there's mental illness. And if you don't see that there are two totally different sides of things here, and it's two totally different extremes, then I'm sorry. But this bothers me. It eats me alive. And it really is disgusting that this is the road that was taken here by everybody involved. And what should the 76ers do? Do they play the tribute? And realistically, when you think about almost being Defensive Player of the Year, being Rookie of the Year, the All-Star games, going from 0 wins, basically, throughout the process to 50-something wins, this is a player drafted first overall. You say, hey, thanks, Seth, thank Andre, thanks, Ben, just whatever, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds long. Should that be done? Yeah, probably, even if this toxic, probably. But knowing the circumstances, I wouldn't. I expect that building to go crazy. I expect that building to let it go and let it go as in let it pour all out and let him understand exactly how we feel based off of your actions. And that should be what happens. See, if you're worried about what the national media is going to think or the approach of what, people outside, Stephen A, First Take, this and that, because of the national media, they're going to find a way to spin it to make the 76ers fans look atrocious, no matter if they say anything like, you can't do that when somebody hits free throws, or whether they say, you suck, Ben, and they freak out. What we can't have happen is someone dump popcorn on another on a Ben Simmons or anybody a part of the Brooklyn. We can't have any of that garbage. And I just feel there's going to be one or two people that go overboard, because there's always idiots in every fan base, in every city, that seems to cross the line. And we need to do our best as a community, because we know what the discussion points are going to be. So if we know that heading into the night, you got to hold the people around you accountable to make sure that they don't do anything dumb. Although I understand it's very difficult to say your actions can't happen while someone else decides I'm going to do it anyway. We just need to do our best out there. And what we should do is let it fly, let it soar, pound him with as many boos and toxic loud screams as humanly possible. And then that's it. And if you're telling me from an arbitration standpoint, when you look at all of the context and the entire story, everything that played out, going to the Camden facility but not really being there, going through the motions, getting kicked out of practice so he didn't have to speak to the media, half-assing everything, barely riding the bike, putting in zero effort, blaming everybody first, blaming Doc Rivers, blaming Joel, blaming Daryl Morey. The list goes on. I'm blaming everything. Then when getting fined, that's when the mental health issues popped up. Now going through this experience, all of it as a whole, the boos when he returned to Philly would be the difference in him getting $20 million, getting a handful of $1 million back in return. That's just a horrendous way of doing business if I'm looking at the arbitration standpoint. Boos, stop it. Realistically, if Ben just shut up and didn't release 5 billion different articles through his agency and just showed up and played basketball after maybe the first 3 or 4 games and he just started playing, it would just be a normal season. We would just think out of that, all right, we're running it back. All right, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. It would be that simple. They would just be playing basketball. If he just looked everybody in the face after the game and said, what was that Doc said he doesn't know? All right, I love Doc. I'll show him. I love Doc. I love playing here. I'll show him. If he doesn't believe so, my competitive nature will counter that and make him believe in me next season. Then we're cheering him on. And look at all the examples of the guy shooting free throws, right? Remember the famous guy was on Twitter? He's literally saying, Ben, look at me, shoot the free throws. You're getting standing ovations. That's what I'm doing if I'm the other side. If I'm the 76ers, I'm bringing in a major highlight package, a highlight reel of when they played that team from China and he hit the three-pointer and he hit the three-pointer throughout the regular season and all those moments of screaming and giving him all sorts of love and letting him know that we appreciate you here, Ben. All of that to counter this boo that's going to occur against the Brooklyn Nets. I cannot believe that that's what they're doing. And I remember the moment that the news dropped, the moment that it happened, I was actually on 97.5 The Fanatic at the time, and I thought to myself instantly, from his standpoint, if I put his shoes on my feet, okay, I get it. Get it over with. Even though the first time he plays here for real and is actually willing to play the game of basketball, it would still be toxic and it would still be brutal. But I get it. From his perspective, I get it. Just get it over with. I would personally never be in that position because I'm not a bitch. But if somehow, some way I was, then I would just do that. Okay, fine. Then my mind started to even dive a little bit deeper and start realizing that there's way more to this. Okay. Now they could spin it where, look how mean these people are. No wonder why Ben Simmons wanted out. So less about the contract and less about the fines and less about the green, the money, but more just about public perception. What was the angle they were trying to take here from the public perception style? And then we're hearing Kyle Neubeck, a Philly Voice, putting out the article and how there's all sorts of talks behind the scenes about how this is so damn methodical from the arbitration standpoint. And it's sickening. It's disturbing that someone would actually feel the need to do that, to feel obligated to utilize something so serious in this world that people struggle with every single day to such a horrible, horrible degree, and a really devastating degree that people do that. And now all of a sudden he's fine and willing to just have 20-something thousand people have awful things to say about him just because, well, you know, by the end of it, I can pay my mortgage. And by the end of it, I'll be able to spend more money on cars. And when I say my mortgage, my third, fourth, and fifth mortgage. And I'm not telling you that money means you're happy all the time. It's not what I'm saying, because trust me, I get it. When you reach a different level of fame and different level of bringing in paychecks, that doesn't automatically mean you're the happiest person in the world. So I'm not saying it from that standpoint, but it's awfully interesting and it's extremely eyebrow raising that mental health. And now, hold on a second, you can get paid? Oh, it's always about the money for that. There's so many holes in this Ben Simmons story. And what I have a problem with is the people who don't see it. Because it's not very hard. This isn't one where, damn, they're doing this extremely well. They are really just outworking everybody else in this way. It's so simple. My dog can see it. Swear to God. My dog understands how pathetic their timeline is and how it's not adding up. And there's so many holes burned within the timeline. Ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but it's reality of the situation. And that's 1,000% correct here. We got a $2 donation coming in from Elliot in the live chat. Hope you're having a good night, bros. Keep preaching. Thank you so much, Elliot. I greatly appreciate it. We're going to open up the phone lines here, 856-442-9805. If you would like to talk about what happened and everything that is going to go down on Thursday and how you would approach it as a fan, how you're feeling heading into the night, you can absolutely do so now. There's also a couple other things I want to touch on. Tobias and the Andrew Bogut thing that I thought was definitely interesting. Before we do all that, though, WinView. Let me tell you about WinView. WinView is the nation's leading sports predictor, allowing you to compete in pregame or live contests against other people, not the house. Now, I'll give you an example of how it works. So basically, you download the app, winview.tv/broads. The link is down below in the description. If you click that link and sign up through that, it will help me out tremendously. It's 1 versus 1. So it's you versus someone else, and whoever answers the questions correctly, more questions correctly, I should say, ends up winning the pot and taking home the money. So it asks questions. Who will win the game? The Sixers or the Nets? Will Joel Embiid outscore Kevin Durant? Yes or no? Will James Harden record 12 or more assists? Yes or no? Will Kyrie Irving have over 26 points? Yes or no? These are the style of questions that are asked. What team would have more turnovers at the end of the night? The Sixers or the Nets? And then you see whoever answers the questions correctly, more of them, then that person wins the pot. It's super fun. They have a deposit bonus going on right now where if you put in 50, you get 100. If you put in 100, you get 200. Winview.tv/broads. Make sure you check it out. Link is down below in the description. Sign up utilizing that link. You will not want to miss out on how much fun you can have every single night utilizing WinView. With that, we'll go to the phones and kick this thing off. Hello, good evening. You're on Broads Media.
Bro, it's my guy, the icon. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
I'm pissed off, bro. I feel like you're on the same page, but I feel like we kind of have a golden opportunity on Thursday to kind of send a message, and we can be the bad guys of the NBA, and we can kind of instill fear, not only in Ben Simmons, but in the whole league, that if you're coming to our house, you're coming into Harden's house, you're coming into Embiid's house, it's going to be raucous. It's going to be a mess. And you better be ready, because we're going to be ready.
I hope so. I really do. I mean, this team, it's a weird year, though, at home, isn't it? Where they win a lot of their road games. And over the Brett Brown era, they were winning a bunch of home games and not being able to win on the road. So right now, it's kind of a weird spot for them on their home floor, that they don't have the same consistency that we've seen over years past. And maybe, to your point, this could be the moment that almost rallies everyone together.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, man, as long as we're right for the playoffs, I'm done with this regular season stuff. Like, I don't care. We could be the fifth seed for all I care. As long as we go to the finals, that's all that matters to me. And I want Ben Simmons to like be afraid to come to Philadelphia ever again, like especially for the playoffs. I want us to be raucous. I want us to boo. I was listening to Mike Missinelli earlier, and he was like, "We should say thank you for Harden." I don't want any of that. I want it to be like, boo, Ben. Ben, you're a pussy. Ben, you're a bitch. All this horrible stuff. I want the national news on Friday to be, these Philly fans are scary. That's what I want the news to be. I want us to kind of stick the dagger in the heart and be like, be afraid. And I understand like the whole Rich Paul stuff, like the money. That's not as important to me. You know what's worth the money? Like the fear, I don't think you can put a price on that. Like,
no, I think
if
that's I think that's a great point, and thank you so much for the call. Now, in terms of, calling him names that you were mentioning out there and all, I mean, that's what they want. There's no doubt that that's what the Clutch Sports wants. But at the same time, I feel as a fan base, we deserve the opportunity to let that fly. Now, maybe not to the level of, things that you're saying, even though I understand that's what it's going to be. I can't stop that. Those words are probably going to be flying around nonstop. I just think 22,000 with the most aggressive boo in the world would be definitely a really intense feeling to bring on if you're one person, no doubt. But my point is, I feel even if they end up getting some of their money, I don't want him to, right? I want him to lose all of his money and not get it back and all those fines. He deserves those fines just as much as we deserve the chance to really get into his face. But he's afraid. I mean, there's a reason why he's not playing the sport of basketball. And there's a part of it, which is he didn't prepare his body. And during his time of not playing games for the Sixers, he was not really working the way that he should. So whenever that trade happened, it's like, hey, it's time. Let's roll the basketball out so we can work on our game. No, he never did. He never properly self-assessed and put himself in a position to succeed by working the right way in the gym. He doesn't know how to work the right way. He might be in the gym and show up at St. Joe's or show up at the Camden facility when everybody else is out and nobody's there anymore, but he doesn't know how to do it the way that NBA professionals should do it. And that's a huge difference knowing we can see just the little details in the game of James Harden. That changes everything on the floor and changes how an entire team is created and their identity and what they can do possession by possession. Just being there isn't enough. You got to know exactly how to fully do it. And Ben Simmons absolutely doesn't. And nobody around him apparently does either. So I'm torn because part of me goes, I don't want him sniffing any of that cash. You mocked something so important to society, and now all of a sudden you get a chance to get your money back. But at the same time, let him off free. Cheer James Harden instead of booing Ben Simmons. That's not something that I feel is okay for us because we deserve a chance. We do. We do. We put in our hard sweat and tears. We put in our blood. We pay the money for this team nonstop. And he's like, flipping us off. Screw you. I can't let that happen. So I'm somewhat torn. I'm somewhat stuck. But if you're telling me, I dive back to this. If you're telling me people booing you after this means you have a case, my argument would be this wouldn't be the case if your player, Ben Simmons, the guy that you, what's the word I'm looking for? He's his agent. What is it? Represent. The guy you represent did things, and now this is the fans' reaction. But if this wasn't the case, if he didn't sit out and he didn't blame everybody and then he didn't claim mental health when he didn't have it and he didn't do 7, 8, 9, 10 different things, those boos wouldn't have happened. So you can't make the claim that, see, this environment's too toxic for my player because your player did things to make this happen. It's really not that hard to comprehend. It's almost like there's accountability in life. And Ben Simmons, ironically enough, stated towards the end of Brett Brown that there's not enough accountability in this locker room. Ben, the dude begged you to take shots a game. Oh, he's got to take at least one a game publicly. He got on his hands and knees basically and said, dude, shoot threes, man. Shoot them. And you didn't. You just don't know what accountability means. It's unfortunate at your age that it's hard for you to comprehend. Back to the phones we go. Good evening. You're on Broads Media.
This guy is a gutless fucking turd. I really can't believe that he actually has the balls to do this. I mean, he didn't have the balls to, certainly as a player, but he has the balls to do this, I guess.
Yeah, it's extremely disappointing that after everything that he stated and the paths that he took to make sure that money goes into his pocket, I don't know what type of person, if you're Rich Paul and Clutch Sports, knowing what he's claiming, if it's true, who would ever put their client in that position if it was as bad as what they were claiming it was?
Yeah, like this guy, like I would have a lot more. Okay, I will never respect him, but if I was a player on the Nets, like if I was Ben Simmons, okay, if I want to like make a statement, if I want to like go out and like show my teammates, my new Nets teammates, that like, hey, I'm with you guys. I'm ride or die with this team. I want to show that I'm with you guys. I would go out there and play, but he's only going out there and sitting on the sideline to get his money that he feels like he's owed, and his twisted term of reality, because he's not doing it to support his teammates. I don't think he's out there in Charlotte right now. I think Tyrone from the Fanatic made that point. I don't think he's like out there on the sideline against the Hornets on the road. The guy's only out there to get his money that he feels like he's owed, which he doesn't. He's not owed jack shit.
He really isn't. And thank you so much for the call. Yeah, he wasn't in Boston. He's not in all these other cities, but just miraculously, hey, I'm showing up in Philadelphia, as if this wasn't methodical. And that's why I feel anyone who is associated with the decision-making on what he deserves and doesn't deserve, they have to see this. They're not even doing a good job. If you're actually doing a good job, Ben shows up in Boston, Ben shows up in Charlotte, Ben shows up everywhere. So then when it's time for Philadelphia, it's just part of the path and part of him supporting his team in every single destination. But they don't know how to operate here because it's all out of whack, and it's not true. They are basically lying so poorly that they don't even know how to back up their lies. It's like someone who gets caught in a lie, right? Let's say you're 8 years old and you're lying to your parents about something, and you're walking in circles and you're talking in circles, and the parent goes, but you just said X, Y, and Z. This doesn't even make sense. That's exactly how this is happening now. It's not rocket science. It's so easy to see the disgusting lies that continue to happen. And speaking about knowing the human side of things, and if he had what he claimed he had, no one would put him on this floor to get criticized this way. I say the same thing about Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey. Now, it's obvious that Doc Rivers and Ben Simmons had a better relationship than Daryl Morey and Ben Simmons. Ben got butthurt when Daryl Morey elected to go through Joel Embiid with the franchise. And obviously, he did not make the wrong decision considering what Joel Embiid has done and accomplished so far. Still ways to go and still needs to win the trophy. But let's be realistic. You're in a fantastic spot when you build through a Joel Embiid. There's a reason why James Harden and now potentially Bradley Beal in the offseason and other teams and players look at the Sixers and go, oh, damn, they definitely have something there. But Doc Rivers, he's not an evil human. Daryl Morey's not an evil human. He might have to make tough decisions to help out his franchise. He might have to make harsh moves and play the businessman, but that doesn't mean he's an evil soul and he wants people to have awful lives and experience just terrible things, right? They're not bad, horrible, prison-worthy, bad-hearted people. So there's a reason why the Sixers approached it the way that they did, because it's just not passing the smell test. If it did, now I don't know Doc Rivers personally, and I don't know Daryl Morey personally, but just from my outside view and everything I gathered from just studying these people and seeing them and hearing them and people who get to speak to them a lot and speaking to those individuals. So sort of like your third, fourth whisper down the lane, if you will, about who these people are. But let's be realistic. Doc Rivers, respectful guy throughout the NBA. Daryl Morey, respectful guy. There's reasons why DeAndre Jordan says what he says about wanting to play for Doc. Same with James Harden. To the point where, to kind of tie this all together with a bow, would they really look at Ben Simmons if he was really going through a traumatic, tragic spot in his life, say, screw you, we don't care, we just want to fine you just because? Absolutely not. They're not that they're not that much of a terrible-hearted people. $5 from Medium Giant. Okay, what's a medium giant? I don't know. Ben is a disgrace, hurting the mental health community to fill his pockets. Not even man enough to get on the court and compete. I'm disgusted. I'm right there with you, and I think a lot of people feel this way, as we should. We're not out of touch. We're not out of character here. We're not out of line. It's not us. And don't let anybody make you feel that that's the case. Don't let anyone outside looking in pretend like we're the problem, we're the issue, we're the reason, because it's not true. Now, should Doc Rivers say what he said after the Game 7? And thank you so much for the $5 donation, Medium. But should he have said it? Probably not. I still don't think what he said was wrong, because if you just analyze the game, Ben, your coach had to yank you off the floor for a young Tyrese Maxey because you weren't getting the job done and you were extremely poor at what you needed to do. So if I'm Ben Simmons, I recognize that that did happen, and I go, yeah, that's a problem. I need to be better. I wasn't playing well enough, and my coach felt the need to go to somebody else. I'm going to use that to fuel me, and I'll become a better player. I'll use that to my advantage. You got to go down before you go up. And sometimes there needs to be some tough moments in your life, some learning curves. And this is what my path is. And I'm okay with that. I'm going to accept it and make sure that I put myself in the gym every single day this offseason to work on those issues. So next year, when we're right back into this and we're in the second round again and I'm underneath the basket, it won't happen. But there's a reason why he doesn't relay that type of message. Should have Doc Rivers said? Maybe not. It still wasn't that bad, honestly. I'm probably being softer on the situation because now I see the context of how it all played out. But even with that said, there's no way it shouldn't have blown up the way that it did. Accountability. It's just that simple. Good evening. You're on with Broads Media. Back to the phone lines we go. Hello.
Hey, Broads, what's going on? It's Rock from West Philly.
What's up, Brock? What's happening, bro?
I can't call it, man. Just a couple of things I want to say, and I'm going to get out of here. First, the thing with Ben that's really, really bothering me the most is that with mental health, it's just kind of getting traction in a lot of people's mind, period. And to have somebody use it as like a kind of the way he's doing it in a disgustful way that he's using it really makes me mad. The fact that he's coming there to play this elaborate game about Philly fans being awful, that's not breaking news. That's been going. That's like saying Santa, like it's where he is. It's like the arbitrator's gonna be like, if he's ever watched the NBA, they're gonna say Philly fans are exactly what you get. It's almost a part of the contract. Like the last sheet said, then there's the fans. So I don't see how their ploy is gonna work when it comes to us. And lastly, I want to say, bro, first of all, I love what you do, man. I listen every day. So please keep doing it.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? I'm a big fan.
Thank you very much.
The last thing I wanted to add on is that what Ben's going to realize, being from where he's from, and anybody else that's not from Philly, man, is we can always sniff it out. We work hard. We can always sniff it out. You setting up the rest of Ben's career to be a failure. Even if he starts being a Hall of Famer, we still going to show up at the Hall of Fame and give him trash there. So I don't think the people around him is seeing that they really setting up this type of trap when you go against our type of fan base. But that's what I wanted to add, man. Please keep doing it. I'm enjoying myself. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you so much. And definitely don't be afraid to call in again. The only thing I'll disagree with is saying that, like, in terms of us being bad. Like, I don't think we're bad. I think the public perception makes us worse than what we are. But Boston fans, LA fans, and you saw the whole thing with Russell Westbrook the other day, and he feels that he can't even bring his family and his kids to his own games because there's so much awful things being thrown out there. And, you know, that definitely is a little heartbreaking to hear, just saying, like, you can't even, like, I put myself in his shoes. I have my kids and I have my family, and let's say I play in the NHL and I am so hated by all my fans. But then once again, right, if you played a little bit better, but the difference is, once again, too, that one guy is just playing poorly, but not afraid to play. This Ben Simmons thing, it doesn't relate to any other basketball player ever. It doesn't relate. Russell Westbrook is a bad shooter. He's a poor shooter. He's making bad decisions out there shooting the basketball. Ben Simmons is unwilling to even look at himself in the mirror. One of the biggest things that I took out of Russell Westbrook and that media press conference, because I was interested in it, and I kind of wanted to see, okay, there is this new life that we have with social media, and it's not the same as it was in the 90s, and it was somewhat self-assessing as a fan base, and just as sports fans, not Philadelphia fans, but sports fans as a whole. And when you listen to his message and his tone, one of the things he did bring up, he mentioned the fact that I'm not playing well. I'm not doing good enough. I need to be better. All that. And that's where I differentiate the two, which is Ben Simmons sees no issue. He sees no problems. He sees that nothing's going he doesn't think that anything's going wrong at all with his game. He's perfect the way that he is. While Russell Westbrook saying, I am nowhere close to playing what I need to play like. I'm not doing my job, but I also don't think it's necessary to say death threats to my family, bring my kids involved and everything else. And he's not wrong with that. But these are two totally different scenarios. And this Ben Simmons, you can't tie anything to this because it's that outrageous and it's that so much to an extreme that it's hard to relate it to anything else. So, yeah, the only thing I would say that, we're not that evil. We're not that bad. But I do understand what you're saying, which is when you are going through the arbitration process and say, yeah, the Sixers fan booed us. Okay. And what else? Well, the Sixers fan, they booed us. Okay. And that's why I go back to Rich Paul. I wouldn't be surprised if they plant people in the building. So they have their own crew doing something, and then they just say, and they videotape it, and they say, look what happened here. Look what he had to deal with. Trust me, do not be surprised if that happens at all. And another part to this. Ben Simmons signed the contract. You didn't have to sign the contract. You signed the contract. Now, I can't pretend like in this era of sports that the players don't run the asylum. So that's just the nature of the beast. You could sign the contract all you want and still want out and still get your way. James Harden, Anthony, but here's the difference again. There's always something different with this story, and that's why it's so hard to compare it to anything else. James Harden was going to walk. Brooklyn wasn't going to be able to keep him. They got to maximize their return. Anthony Davis, he wasn't going to sign with the New Orleans Pelicans. Ben Simmons had multiple years on the deal, and that's why this is dangerous for the CBA and for other players' associations out there when it comes to financial and mental health and all of it. So this is a big deal. This isn't, because I see a couple people out here in the chat. He's gone. Forget about it. Here's Bobo. And I guess that really describes everything, just saying his name. But Bobo in here says, you Philly boys got to let Ben go. It's like an ugly breakup. The sooner you let go, the sooner you can relax. That's not true because he's faking mental health. So it's not just letting him go. It's not a normal situation where the Nets are unhappy because James Harden left. And it's just that simple of a discussion. And now that he's gone, he's gone. Now this guy faked mental health so he can get paid. Sorry, that puts you in a difference here. Sorry, that doesn't make it easy. That's like if you see someone and it's not the same as that. So I don't even want to go down the road. This doesn't compare to anything else at all. I can't do that. Sorry, I can't do that. That's not the way that I feel. Ben, you signed the deal. You had a handful of years left. Whew. What a joke this guy is. What an absolute clown. Kyle from Connecticut's not a clown, though. What's up, Kyle?
Yo, what's up, bros?
What's happening, man?
Yeah, sorry I'm a little late to the show. I just got off work, but
No, it's okay.
glad to be ready. I wanted to leave my 2 cents on this.
Absolutely. Hit me.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is literally just exposing what we've all assumed all along, that it's just all been about the money. Mental health has been just a complete facade for all this. And it's, I mean, I would say I'm really mad, but at the same time, I'm not surprised, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you there. I'm not surprised by it whatsoever. I figured that there would be more coming here just because it was somewhat put on hold after the trade happened. And we were excited about James Harden. And then for a handful of weeks, that was our discussion. And what does that mean for the offense? But it was still not finished. All of that financial part of things, it was somewhat of put on a back burner. And I figured at some point it would, resurface the conversation. And here we are. So I'm not surprised either. It's just now that it's here, it relights the fuel and it relights the boiling point for me, and I can't let it go. And you know what? I don't think we're wrong to have this type of emotions towards it. This is terrible. I mean, let's say you see, everyone use the girlfriend example. Let's say your girlfriend of 4 years cheated on you with 9 different guys and you found out. You think it's as easy as, just forget about her. Don't worry. No, every time you see that woman, you're going to have all those emotions come right back out.
No, I agree. I've just, with all the people that have been saying that, like, just move on, it's whatever, he's gone. I can't do that. Just as a human being and someone that respects mental health and the mental health in athletes, this goes well beyond Philly basketball. It speaks for the NBA itself. It speaks for professional sports. It speaks for all sports in general. And just the way that he thinks he can fleece this team and just fleece the league with how he's doing this, it's wrong. And I think, you're right to pay attention to this and not let it go, because, it's going to have consequences throughout. As you were talking with the CBA, I mean, the next player in NBA meeting is going to be, sheesh, I wonder how that's going to go. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in a lockout again. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of consequences here. And just, I don't think that many people are really grasping just the magnitude that this has really caused.
Right, I agree. And I agree. It's not just basketball related. This dives way deeper. Thanks, Kyle. In terms of the CBA and lockouts or anything like that, the NBA does a fantastic job of actually communicating and pushing things forward. So in terms of that, I don't see this scenario breaking it down and making anything MLB related. That's definitely not the road that it would happen with. But in terms of how you kind of laid it out there towards the end, which is it's right to put this level of magnitude on it. It's right to look at it with this type of emphasis. It's right to highlight it and make sure every time it's a new news cycle and it's available to discuss again, that it should be a hot topic, because letting it slide and letting it go is allowing Ben Simmons to get away with dirty, and I mean dirty type of move. This is terrible. And I don't even think I can find a word that really does describe it the way that I would like to, but it's a dirty, dirty act to call this type of card. And you just have to remember, it's easy when time moves forward to forget about everything that happened in the past. But if you strictly want to sit down and go back to that date and go back to that moment when he was standing underneath the basket, the pass occurred to Matisse Thybulle, and Thybulle ended up getting fouled, making one free throw, and the rest is history. From that specific time to where we are today, if you dissect the ins and the outs, Ben Simmons is a liar. Ben Simmons is making up a ton of nonsense. And for me, if you let it go, he wins. And you know what? If you criticize him and you go over the top on Thursday and the arbitration ends up saying, you're right, Rich Paul, you're right, Clutch Sports, he deserves the money, then there's nothing we can do about it. We're not doing the wrong thing by approaching it that way, and I'm level-headed here with it. Believe it or not, I might scream, I might yell, but the objectivity in the analyzing department, I think, is very spot on, which is, if I'm the Sixers, you can't judge, and this would be my statement during arbitration, you can't judge the reaction after he pulled this card and he did this. There's going to be a reaction to what he did. This reaction wouldn't have occurred if he didn't pull the strings that he did. So you can't say he couldn't have played here because it would have been too toxic. It wouldn't have been this level of toxic. Would there be people discussing it on sports talk radio? You can't win with this guy. Yeah, you got that about Joel Embiid. You got that about Tobias Harris. You get that about Matisse Thybulle. You get that about every player. Shake Milton, Furkan Korkmaz, Doc Rivers. Every single day taking phone calls, people call in about Doc Rivers and how afraid they are about him. One of the most respected guys in the league and one of the top coaches. That's called being a professional athlete, and you can't escape that. And if you're not tough enough to be able to embrace that or at least hide from it, because there's plenty of athletes that just don't pay attention. Just don't pay attention if that's the case. Don't listen to sports talk radio. Don't check in. There's a difference between criticizing if you can win a championship with a player or not from the sports talk radio department and then anything overboard. And the reason why it might go overboard in your eyes, Ben, is because of the decisions that you made. $5 from Abs. I honestly miss the good old days when Ben was actually balling out, averaging 18, 19, and we all loved him. I don't disagree with you. I loved Ben for a long-ass time. I was always a big supporter of Ben. This was the first year where I couldn't believe it, and I said, enough's enough. I've been fooled so many damn times. This is now the 5th year I've been screaming for the damn guy to shoot a basketball. I'm done. Enough's enough. It will not work. I was the guy that got annihilated after the Sixers played the Wizards game 1, and he had 6 points or so. But he had a handful of assists, double-digit assists. I said, nope. He run away from the free throw line. He kept running away. And thank you, Abs, for the $5. He didn't want the moment. That will come back to bite them. You escaped because the Wizards stink. Wait till you see a good team. And then, of course, the inevitable happened. The same exact scenario. You just couldn't squeeze by the same way because the Atlanta Hawks, who aren't even very good, they didn't win. Okay, the Sixers lost more than the Atlanta Hawks won anything. And you could see this year that Hawks team, it was just there. They were just there. The Sixers and Ben Simmons lost more than the Atlanta Hawks won. But I loved Ben. There was a time where I said a handful of years ago, I'm not trading a 22-year-old, a 21-year-old Ben Simmons for a James Harden. Because if he maximizes his potential 4 or 5 years in, when most athletes do at 27, 26, 28, as we're seeing with Joel Embiid, the example is right there in the front of all of our faces. If that's what he blossoms into, then he's better than James Harden. And I still stand by that. If the guy just was able to incorporate that part of his game, he's an unstoppable force. You could see right now with James Harden, his threat of shooting is the reason why his passing, his drives, his step back, all of it works because he can actually score. Ben Simmons being able to actually score and shoot would open up even more of his passing, would open up even more of his drives, would open up so much more in his game. Where there was just so many times where I would fight back. I'm not trading Ben. I'm not. Just unfortunately, he falls into that category of people, and there's maybe a select few that just unwilling to try to get better. And just from an ex-competitor, and screw sports. In this business now that I'm doing, media, sports talk radio, every day I want to be better than I was yesterday. Screw this, screw my business, screw my job. Let's talk about homeowning. I've been a homeowner now for about 1.5 years, coming up to 2 years actually. Time flies by. Every day, I want to be better at homeowner things. I got to fix the toilet. I got to fix the sink. I got to do the grass outside. I got to fix the fence, whatever it is. My point is, as a human being, when I look at myself, I want to be better at anything that I do. Video games, MLB The Show. I want to be better at everything. And the fact that there's a human being that's satisfied with that, just disappointing. As a human to human, disappointing. I'm not disappointed with all you, though, out there that continue to listen to the show, continue to talk in the chat, continue to call. And with that perfect segue into our next caller. Hello, how are you? You're on with Broads.
Yo, Bros.
Yo, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? Love the show, man.
Thank you.
Listen, I just want to hit you with a couple questions and then a couple points. But first of all, did anyone ever come out and actually say from Ben Simmons' camp, Rich Paul, anybody like that, he says he has a mental health issue? What exactly is his mental health issue?
Great question. So
no one ever said, right?
Nope. The Sixers asked for verification, as they should, just like any employer, no matter who you work for. If you're saying mental health, they're not going to say, okay, go home and just whenever you feel you're ready, just come back. It's no, you. And the thing is, they didn't want to use the Sixers doctors. Fine, go to your own, but you need some sort of documents. That's all, just documents.
My point is this. Bitch assness is not a fucking recognizable disease. Yeah, I mean, that's what Ben is. I mean, and here's the other question I have is this. I know it's an arbitration and everything, but is there any way the Sixers can countersue to get back pay from before? Because every off season, Ben is showing us these videos of him shooting in empty gyms, making 3-pointers and stuff like that. That's false advertisement. We should get money back from him.
Honestly,
because of all
obviously that's all fun again. I don't know if they could get to that level of starting.
No. I know. I'm being funny, but at the same time, I wish we could, But here's my suggestion for the event. Because it is an event with him coming back to the Wells Fargo Center and everything.
Sure.
I think the Sixers should do a petty video tribute. Just show pictures of him with jump passes in the lane, passing to no one. How about a still shot of him standing at the top of the 3-point line with no one guarding him within 15 feet, just not doing anything. And then the coup de grace is, the non-dunk over Trae Young.
Yeah.
Passing it to Thibault. Seriously, I'm trying to think of a better chant, but, my best chant that I can come up with is True Philly. Rumble me, dickhead. Because he owes all of us a fucking boxing match.
Yeah.
Every one of us who have supported him through the years.
I agree.
And we did. We cheered him when he was not cheered him, but we pulled for him when he was missing those free throws, and not taking shots in the fourth quarter. But then for him to sit in the press conference afterwards and say, "Hey, it is what it is," and get mad at Doc because they asked the question, "Hey, Doc, can you win with Ben as your point guard?" is the question that they asked him. It was specific. They didn't say win with Ben Simmons. They said win with him as your point guard. And Doc said, "I don't know the answer to that." Because maybe he wanted to move him to power forward.
I think that you brought up.
Anybody ever think of that?
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a lot of great stuff. Thank you so much for the card. Wrote down a few that I definitely want to touch on. In terms of the position, I know that that's been discussed. Maybe he could be off the ball, and with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, he could play that 4. The problem is when you look at the center, Andre Drummond, and I know they have LaMarcus Aldridge, but if he was to play the 4, a power forward role, it's very difficult to operate if you can't stretch the floor. This is now a game where your 4 position, look around the league. These good teams have 4s that do damage. And you look at these, even the 5s nowadays, you got Brook Lopez hanging out in the corner, drawing all sorts of shots. So if he doesn't have the ball in his hands and his best attribute is a passer, it's a very difficult sell. But I think your point is valid, which is if you're Ben and you're analyzing the question, it wasn't can you win with Ben Simmons in general. It was just as a floor general, knowing the spacing of today's game. And this isn't how the message was portrayed or how the question was asked, I should say. But if you read between the lines and understand how the game has changed, you need guys who can score with the ball in their hands as they're dribbling up because it changes everything. Maxi's wide open. Niang is wide open. Hell, even Tobias Harris is wide open. They're just, Tobias specifically, not making their shots, but you could see how much more room there is to operate. So it's a great point to bring up, but I just don't know if Ben doesn't have the ball, what can he do? He could set screens and roll, but then at that point, he's a Matisse Thybulle. And I actually liked when Ben Simmons, Brett Brown put Ben Simmons in positions to be a screener and a roller, and as he was rolling to the basket, he would get a bounce pass or he'd get a pass and he could finish from there or find someone else. He could be a screener and a roller, but at that point, what is he? He's a Matisse Thybulle, and at that point, he's not what you ever anticipated him being, and you have to find ways to hide him, just like you're finding ways right now to hide Matisse Thybulle as much as possible, although James Harden feels obligated to get him incorporated more, which I love that approach, and I love that thought from such a veteran dude. I mean, everyone talked about him being selfish, and he's only worried about himself. That was all the talking points from all the talking heads, and it's just not true whatsoever. This guy's just as determined to win as anybody else that I've seen in this league. Now, in terms of what the Sixers should do on the Jumbotron, I would love for them to mock him and make fun of him and play all the bad clips and all that. But, I mean, if you're looking at it from a Sixers organization perspective, and they know the arbitration stuff's happening as well, I mean, are they going to do that? Are they going to do that? I don't know. If I'm making the decision, I'm probably not doing anything, just knowing the circumstances, because it is an event, as it was just alluded. At the same time, though, maybe it's just one of those, the mug shots where it's just the face And it's Seth Curry. Maybe it's a picture of him taking a jump shot. Andre Drummond with him grabbing a rebound. And then it's Ben Simmons' face out there, maybe just dribbling the ball. And it's a combination of all three of those guys on the screen that says, thank you, Seth, Andre, and Ben Simmons, for your time spent with the 76ers. And then they know a big bunch of boos are going to happen, but it's the most simplistic way to go about things. It's the most standard way to attack it. And I feel that might be what they do, just to play like okay, we got to acknowledge it, knowing this guy was the first overall pick. Like, you can't escape the fact that these guys are returning to the court for the first time. So that's probably how I would do it. Probably. All right, we'll go to Nolan in Hilltown. Nolan, what's happening, bro?
Hey, bros. Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, I'm pretty disgusted with this Ben Simmons drama that we keep hearing about all the time. You know, I really hope that Ben Simmons gets what he deserves for all the shit that he has put this fan base and organization through these last several months. And I think that everybody in the Wells Fargo Center on Thursday night, all their entire vocal cords are going to be absolutely shot because it's going to be such a loud atmosphere. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to seeing exactly what goes down in that building for Ben Simmons.
I agree. I mean, I'm sitting here right now, and I'm pretty bummed that we still have a couple of days until it's Thursday night. And even when it's Thursday morning, you got to wait all day long until it's actually night. So I agree completely. And for me, you say, you don't wish the best for him and all this. And for me, look, I hope the guy fails miserably basketball-wise. Now, I don't want anything bad to happen to him on a personal note. I don't want any sort of injury to happen to Ben Simmons on the floor or anything along those lines. But I'm actively rooting him to miss every shot, for every pass to be horrible, every pass to be out of bounds, every free throw to be missed. All of the all of the parts of the game of basketball like that. I want to see this guy fail so horribly and so miserably that he doesn't even know how to operate ever again, and he's almost a broken player. From a basketball level, of course, that's what I hope happens to Ben.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And going back to the free throws that you alluded to earlier, my theory, and this is something that's been on my mind for a while now, if Ben were to actually play a game in Philadelphia again for another team, I mean, whether it wouldn't be the Nets, whether it be for somebody else, if he were to play another game in Philadelphia, it would be Frosties galore for everybody in the center, because the guy can't make a damn free throw, let alone a shot that's not a dunk. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I absolutely do, Nolan, and thanks so much for calling in. At this point for him, he could work on his free throws every single day, and this is what is always talked about when it comes to free throws. A lot of it is mental, and a lot of it is just repetition. Your body is just so accustomed to doing the same motion over and over and over and over and over again that maybe if you are out of whack a little bit with the mental approach, knowing that people are booing you and knowing it's loud. I'm not talking about Ben Simmons. I'm talking about any NBA player. If you're Julius Randle at the line and the Wells Fargo Center's going nuts, you could be a certain way in your head and say, like, don't miss, but your body's just so accustomed to the same motion over and over again, especially these NBA players. You don't realize how amazing they are. And so Willie Cauley-Stein, a guy who can't make any threes in his life, can sit there and drain 5 billion threes in a row. And same with Ben Simmons. He could just make 5 billion threes in a row. We've seen it all the time pregame, and that's even when people are in the building. So it's just magical that we're even talking about this the way that we do. But in general, with him, I think that knowing what once happened in his life at the line, it's going to take so much time for him to ever get over it, if he ever does get over it. I don't think his mechanics, my point of bringing that up is his mechanics ain't ever going to be good enough for him to break through that little worry or that nervousness or anything like that. His repetition of his motion is just not basketball for him. And I guess at this point in his life and this point in his career, he's so deep in that it doesn't matter if Kyle Korver is working on you. It doesn't matter if Drew Hanlon is working with you. It doesn't matter who is working with Ben Simmons on any sort of shot. At this point, it's just too long. And plus, I don't even know if he's willing to buy into that. And if you're not going in with the right mindset of, I'm going to change this, I know there has to be major change, and I'm willing to work on it. When was the last time Ben Simmons has ever said that about anything in his entire career when it comes to basketball? It hasn't to this point. How deep are you involved? How many years has it been? And nothing has changed. You didn't shoot a ball in 4 straight fourth quarters. 4 straight fourth quarters. You know how impossible that is? Matisse Thybulle would shoot in the fourth quarter. Furkan Korkmaz, Isaiah Joe, DeAndre Jordan would somehow even find a way to pull off a shot in the fourth quarter. It's almost impossible to have that type of experience, especially when the ball is in your hands. Although you can make the argument that it wasn't, because what he would do is he'd dribble up the floor, he'd hand it off to someone, and then he'd go stand there and do nothing. Every possession. He'd grab the rebound, or someone would kick it to him, and in a little bit of a run and with a little bit of a push up the floor, he'd get to where he wanted to, and then he'd stop. He'd literally pick up his dribble. He'd stop. He'd hold it to his right side and wait for one of his teammates to maybe come around the screen, pick it up, and then he'd go stand there every single time. And he honestly still felt the need to rip everybody else and didn't feel like assessing the game himself and looking in the mirror. It's pretty insane that that's where we are at. What else is on the table today? I mean, look, there's a little bit still going on with that whole Chicago game. And the fact that I want to sprinkle this in real quickly, I've been one of the, I'm not going to say defender. I haven't defended Tobias Harris. I just don't think he's as terrible as everybody else. But anyway, with Toby, there was a lot of talk on his defense against Chicago and bringing up some of their players. And you look at DeMar DeRozan shooting from the field goal and all that. That was a big topic last night after the game. James Harden referenced it. Doc Rivers referenced it. And I'm not saying that he was bad on defense. He wasn't bad on defense. But I just feel that, and you know, it's when it's coming from me, it even holds more value knowing that I do tend to look at the more positives out of Tobias, knowing that there's more in there. We're not getting it right now, but I know that there's another gear that he can shift to when he is playing a better brand of basketball. If I'm telling you that they're raving too much about what the defense was against Chicago, you know that there's probably truth to that if I'm saying that. Now, here's one thing I will say, though, about the Tobias experience. He's not giving up. He's not saying, I can't do this. There is a compete level on that defensive side. Now, I believe it's getting overblown just a little bit. I'm not telling you it wasn't valued. I valued it. I just think the talking points, because he's been so awful in so many areas, it's now getting highlighted. It's sort of like with Matisse Thybulle. Hey, Matisse hit a 3. It's like we get so excited and we mock the fact that he hit a 3 and we bring it up. But hitting a 3 in the NBA, the dude hit a 3 and he's wide open and nobody respected him whatsoever. And when the ball was swinging around the perimeter, they actually went to the corner guy instead of him. That's how much they disrespect him, where when he makes it, it's sort of like you throw a parade and you get all excited for Matisse Thybulle scoring 8 points or 10 points. We put it on this pedestal because he's not doing that. With the defense of Tobias Harris, he's playing so poorly and playing so awful that I think the team kind of hyping him up a little. Hey, but that defense, though. And like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm hating on it, because I'm not. If anything, I give him more credit than anybody else, so I'm not hating on it. But I think that there's a little bit of that happening. The positive look on it, though, is while Tobias Harris is definitely struggling and not scoring points and really awful shooting the basketball from 3, overthinking, not catching and shooting like we need him to, he is committed to playing that tough defense. He is committed to giving all of his energy that he has and buying in to what this team needs him to do. Okay, this squad is scoring 125, 130 plus against Minnesota. The team can score. So if the team can score through 3-4 guys and Tobias Harris has a tough night, but they still have 125, okay. Tobias Harris is not going to be a lethal part of this offense. And while he's going to be better than 6 points and he's going to be better than 8 points, I do believe that he's not going to be anything overwhelming, though. And you can't look at his money and think he has to be. The way this team is constructed, that's not part of the Tobias Harris experience. So if you put the right expectations on him, I think that it would make it a little bit easier compared to just complaining every single time that he has a specific outing on the floor, if that makes sense. Now, we got $5 in the donation here in the chat from Jose. I'm sure Doc is letting the players know not to fall into the trap with the Ben Simmons BS and wind up losing the game. Hope no fans get stupid. I agree with you there, where I'm definitely upset about the fan thing. I think some fans are going to do something stupid. I just feel that there's going to be a couple of fans that go overboard and then ruin it for everybody else, where that becomes the talking point and everybody's really focused on that. I hope it's not the case, and we have to definitely express that message for the next couple of days of do not do anything dumb. Do not do anything dumb. But I just know that in the world, there's people who are in jail, and then there's people who can live an everyday society life. And there's a reason, because there's people who are just stupid and people who are morons who will never listen and never follow the rules. So I just really hope that it doesn't come down to that. But in terms of Doc letting players or not letting players feel a certain type of way, if I'm a coach, you obviously address it, and you know the type of emotions that are going to be involved and invested by everyone in that building, right? Everyone in that building is going to be feeling a certain type of way. Even Doc, I'm sure this guy wasn't answering phone calls from anyone. He didn't want to be reached by Doc. He was upset that after Doc Rivers reached out to Ben didn't answer, and then Ben was upset that Doc didn't just show up to his house. I mean, what type of fraud are we talking about here? But if I'm Doc, James Harden has more than just Ben Simmons. He doesn't have the Ben Simmons tie, but he's got the Brooklyn Nets tie. These are pro athletes. It's not AAU. It's not U18. It's not U16. It's not little kids. You guys know what this is all about. You guys have the pride to want to beat this team. I know you do, James. Joel, you already waxed their ass earlier this year in Brooklyn. Do it again. I want them to utilize that emotion to their advantage, for sure. I appreciate the $5, man. Thank you very much. Let's go to the phones. You're on with Broads. Hello, what's going on?
What's up, Broads?
What's up, man?
I got a question for you.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure before I do it, I'm not going too far. I want to bring a sign to the game on Thursday that says Ben Simmons has more girlfriends than three-pointers. Do you think that's too far?
No, absolutely not. I was expecting way worse than that. And look, I mean, but to be fair, if we're going to honestly, objectively look at this situation, if I was in Ben Simmons' shoes, I'm dating Kendall Jenner. I'm going to the Australian Open and I'm hanging out with these chicks. Like, I'm living that same lifestyle. So you're not wrong to criticize him for hopping around all these chicks, but if you were in his shoes, wouldn't you be doing the same damn thing?
You got a point there.
I mean, he did lose him.
I just can't stand that guy.
I agree. You can make fun of him for Devin Booker, though. Maybe you throw a Devin Booker, Kendall Jenner type of thing. Maybe you can go down that path, because I'm sure that stung a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's just such a hate to face for me. I just, every kind of thing I want to clown on him for, any kind of chance I get, I just want to take it. I mean, I just hate that guy.
I agree. I think we all hate him, and thanks for the call. No, I don't think that's bad. I think that there's way worse out there. If that's the worst thing we see at the Wells Fargo Center, I'd be pleased. I'd be stoked, right? Because I don't want anyone to cross the damn line. But yeah, I would tie something in if I were you and I was going to do something along those lines and take shots at him for his dating life. There's definitely a Devin Booker, Kendall Jenner type of style that you could approach there. But yeah, I mean, he lived a certain life with the ladies, and at this point, I guess he settled down all of a sudden. All of a sudden, he somehow just got engaged and went through life. And okay, that was pretty damn quick, I guess. Ethan texted in from Wayne, Pennsylvania. I hate Ben Simmons with a burning passion, but I don't want to make us the villain by doing this. I'm going to the game on Thursday, and I want to bring a sign that says Ben. Oh, Ethan. Ethan texted in before he called in, and I'm like, oh, okay, we got another person that wanted to bring a sign, but that was Ethan. I can save your number. By the way, if you're a caller of the show, an active caller that calls in a lot, you can definitely text into the hotline and text in your number. And then I can save your number. So then when you call, it's like, hey, Ethan's calling in from Wayne. Or who else calls in a lot? Nolan. So we got a texter right here, MJ from Delaware. Hello, MJ. Just when I think I couldn't lose any more respect for 25, he outdoes himself again. Yeah, it seems to be a common theme. And guess what? I don't think this is going to be the end of it. This is just another part of it. This story will probably never end, and it's always going to be an atrocious part until we're probably a handful of years down the road. And even then, I don't know if it ever evaporates. This is one of those stories that you never forget. And there's a ton of them, right? T.O., and he's on his driveway. There's so many stories that Eric Lindros and his family. There's so many that stand out way more than others. I mean, I even think the Carson Wentz, Nick Foles story, although it's a little bit different and doesn't tie exactly the same way as the others. But this Ben Simmons one is right at the top of the list as one of the most bizarre stories that you will ever experience in your lifetime as a Philadelphia sports fan. I say that as I'm watching one of the worst Flyer seasons in my entire life. See, this shouldn't be happening right now. And the fact that the Flyers blow the way that they do, the Flyers are at home against Vegas. I sent someone else to cover the game through Broads Media in the press box. But if the Flyers were good, I mean, I'll waste my time talking about Ben Simmons tonight. Maybe I would tomorrow morning, and I'd focus on a good Flyers Vegas Golden Knights game. But they're so terrible. They're so awful. And the fact that they're on here in the studio, they're up 2-1. It's the start of the third. This shouldn't be how it is. This shouldn't be what I'm doing, but it is. Now, I should express my feelings on Ben. That should happen. But I'm just saying tonight, I had to slip in a little bit of annoyance here with the Flyers. I'm sorry, I just had to. I can't even talk about them anymore. They're not worthy of any sort of discussion at all. Even the Claude Giroux trade, what can happen? All right, I'm done. That was enough Flyers talk. I'm sorry. I don't even know why that even got brought up here. I don't. There were a couple other things that I definitely wanted to touch on in terms of, I touched on the Tobias one, so I can cross that off my list. I also had the Bogut thing with the Bradley Beal. Apparently, Bradley Beal coming to Philadelphia in the offseason's a thing. And that's another reason why I don't think that my emotions get too high for the Tobias Harris stuff. Well, I'm all in on this season, and I'm all in thinking about what they're going to do for the playoff run. Daryl Morey knows what he's doing. Daryl Morey is going to be moving on from Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris will not be here. I don't expect Tobias Harris to be here. I think that he will move Tobias Harris and bring in someone else. That's the type of magician you have as a president of basketball operations. So I trust in him. I trusted in him with this whole Ben Simmons experience. I trusted in him to not trade for Buddy Hield. Could you imagine wanting Buddy Hield? I took caller after caller after caller that said, get a bag of chips. You'll never get a James Harden. Why would you ever get a superstar for someone who's unwilling to shoot? Everyone saw Ben Simmons hide underneath the basket and then pass a wide open dunk. So if you're a GM, in what world would you ever trade James Harden for Ben Simmons? Well, because other stars won out of town all the time. Because there's other cities that don't have success at all, and this is a GM's last crack at it, and they go, well, if I get fired and this doesn't work, I'm getting fired anyway, so I might as well try. This guy could sell jerseys. We can't get anyone on contract here for a long time because we're a small market. Ben Simmons is signed for X amount of years. I mean, there's plenty of variables on why people would make the trade. And what do you know? The Brooklyn Nets made the move. And they wanted Buddy Hield. It's so funny. It's the same with James Harden. Now that you watch James Harden every single night, you're enamored by his passing. This guy's an elite passer. He's not just a good passer. He's not just a great passer. He's an elite passer that doesn't even make sense. And he does it so calmly with so much poise that it seems like he's just going through the motions. But when you look at how detailed these passes really are and how methodical he is with his half-court game, it's magnificent. It's because when you study him, and how many people have you heard say this? After 5 games, I never really sat down and watched him for 48 minutes night to night. Yeah, it's different when you study a player that way. Buddy Hield, people were so enamored by Buddy Hield. When you watch the guy play, he stunk. 1 of 10, 1 of 9, 2 of 8, 2 of 7. These were the numbers that he would spit your way every time. Buddy Hield, he's so bad. He's so garbage. And so many people wanted him. And now you're in a position where guys like Bradley Beal would love to move a little bit up north, ride up 95, and put himself in a position to make legit playoff runs. And I believe Daryl Morey, when it's all said and done, will be able to push the buttons to move on from Tobias and bring that type of player in. And I get that's down the road. I get that's more of an off-season combo that I will absolutely have with everybody at that time. I think that's why, though, I don't let the emotions tear me down. And with Toby, it's like I don't think that he's in the long-term plans here. Could he affect this year's playoff run? Yeah, I still think he'll be better than what he gave us so far in these first 5 games. He's someone who needs more time. Some guys like Maxey, some guys like George Niang seem to just have it with ease. Snap their fingers, hey, James Harden's that much easier of a player to play with. Tobias, he's just someone where, and we've seen this happen before, when he first got traded with Jimmy Butler and he was in this new system and he was playing a different game with a whole different identity, and you were playing with the point guard that couldn't shoot a basketball, and there were so many issues there, and you had to kind of work through it. He's a player that needs a bit more time. He's not a terrible player. He's an overpaid player. He averages 18 points per game. All right? You don't average 18 points per game, and you're just an awful, horrible, pathetic, disturbing, trash player. 18 points per game doesn't mean you're terrible, but you're overpaid. Buddy Hield averages, because that's what made me think about it, he averages 15. His three-point shooting, though, which is what he is, a three-point shooter, went from 43%, 43%, 42.7%. Now he's shooting 34%. So the reason why I feel the way that I do when I'm harsh on him, he's got one job, and that's to shoot a basketball from 3. And he's shooting it at a 34% clip right now, when at one point he was a 43, 43, 40, and that's what people remember him as. Tobias is struggling. But I think Tobias Harris is more of a professional approach than Buddy Hield. If Tobias is struggling in certain areas, he can still give you some defense on DeMar. He can still give you that buy-in good teammate. Would Buddy Hield handle the professionalism the same way? Nah, I don't think so. So it's a different level for me of when I'm saying why I feel better about one player compared to the other, while I'll bash one player like the other. I'm a little bit off the rails right now. I know we kind of got sidetracked into a different little angle there. But anyway, that's me kind of rambling and going off the road, off the rack, if you will. Off the rack, off the track. But with that, I guess we'll kind of shut things down here and end it on a weird, bizarre note for sure. Just remember, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up button now, everyone who's watching live. It will help out tremendously. Winview.tv/Broads. Check out the app down below. Sign up using that link. TikTok Broads Media. And yes, thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thanks for all the calls. A lot of tremendous phone calls today. Some days in Coffee with Broads, we just have awful chats and people are just saying garbage all day long. This was a really good chat room, really good phone calls tonight. I can't thank you guys enough for all of your time. And with that being said, enjoy the rest of your night, and I will see you next time.